The first thing Emily Carter felt that morning wasn't the cold Boston air or the rush of traffic. It was the feeling of being watched. Not in a threatening way. Not in a way that made her uncomfortable. It was quieter than that. Warmer. Like someone had paused their busy life. Just to notice her existence, she stood at the crosswalk outside her apartment. Coffee in one hand, phone in the other, waiting for the light to change. She didn't look around right away. She already knew where the feeling was coming from. Across the street, near the small bookstore on the corner, stood Daniel Wright. He wasn't doing anything unusual. He wasn't staring openly. He was just there, leaning slightly against the window. Holding his travel mug, eyes lifted for a second too long in her direction before drifting away. Anyone else would have missed it? Emily didn't. Their eyes met briefly. Daniel gave a polite nod, almost embarrassed, then looked away as the light changed. Emily crossed the street, her heart moving faster than her steps. She told herself it meant nothing. People notice people. That's life. But the feeling followed her all the way to work. Emily was 34, recently divorced and very good at pretending she had everything under control. Her marriage had ended quietly, no betrayal. No shouting, just two people realizing they had grown into strangers. Since then, she had built a careful life, stable job, clean apartment, friendly coworkers, and no emotional risks. Daniel, right? It's been part of her routine for almost a year now. They worked in the same office building in downtown Boston. Emily was a marketing consultant. Daniel was a data analyst on a different floor. They passed each other in elevators, meetings, and the lobby cafe. He was always kind, always respectful, always slightly distant, and always watching. At first, Emily thought she imagined it. A glance here, a moment there. But over time, it became impossible to ignore. Daniel noticed her when she spoke in meetings, and she laughed at someone's joke, when she paused to think before answering a question. His attention felt focused, never careless. It didn't feel like desire. It felt like interest, like curiosity. She found herself wondering what he saw when he looked at her. Did he see confidence? Did he see loneliness? Did he see a woman who had learned how to survive disappointment without becoming bitter? Emily didn't know why it mattered. She only knew that it did. One afternoon, during a long project meeting, she felt his gaze again. She was explaining a strategy, hands moving as she spoke. When she finished, she glanced up and saw Daniel watching her with an expression she couldn't name. Thoughtful, almost protective. Their eyes locked. Daniel blinked, looked down at his notes, and cleared his throat. Emily's words stumbled for half a second before she recovered. No one else noticed. But something inside her shifted that night. She thought about him longer than she wanted to admit. She reminded herself that attention didn't mean intention. That quiet men often observe more than they act. That she didn't need another complicated story in her life, still. She noticed him everywhere after that. In the mornings, he arrived 10 minutes earlier than usual when she did. In the afternoons, he took his coffee break when she took hers. In the evenings, he lingered near the elevators. She worked late. He never crossed a line. And that made it harder. Emily wasn't used to patience. She wasn't used to someone wanting without taking. The restraint itself felt intimate. One rainy evening, the office was nearly empty. Emily stayed late preparing a presentation for a client in Chicago. Her shoulders ached. Her eyes burned from the screen. When she finally shut down her laptop, the floor was quiet. Lights dimmed. She stepped into the hallway and froze. Daniel stood by the elevator. Jacket on, bag over his shoulder, waiting. Long day. He asked gently. His voice startled her not because it was loud, but because it was calm, familiar. Like he had practiced saying those words. She smiled tiredly. Long week. He nodded, understanding more than she had explained. The elevator arrived and they stepped in together. The silence wasn't awkward. It felt comfortable, like a shared pause. When the doors opened, they walked out side by side into the damp evening air. The city smelled like rain and pavement. Good luck tomorrow, he said. You always do great. Emily stopped walking. She turned to face him. You notice that? Daniel looked surprised. Yes, their eyes held for a moment longer than necessary. Something unspoken hovered between them. Hope, maybe, or fear. Then he smiled politely and walked away. Emily stood there longer than she should have. Over the next few weeks, the pattern continued. Daniel watched. Emily noticed. Nothing moved forward, but nothing stayed the same either. The tension wasn't uncomfortable, it was alive until one morning. It wasn't there anymore. Emily felt it immediately. She entered the building and scanned the lobby out of habit. Daniel wasn't there. In the elevator, he didn't step in behind her. In meetings, his eyes stayed fixed on his laptop. She told herself she was imagining it. But the days passed, and the distance remained. Daniel stopped watching. He still spoke politely. Still nodded hello. But the warmth had faded. The quiet attention that once wrapped around her like a secret was gone. Emily felt strangely hollow. She didn't understand why his absence affected her so deeply. Nothing had happened between them. No promises. No confessions. Yet something had been taken away. She started watching him instead. She noticed how tired he looked. How often he checked his phone and then put it away. How his smiles didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. One evening, as she packed her things, she saw him walking toward the exit alone. Without thinking, she followed. "Daniel," she called. He turned, surprised. "Hey." They stood facing each other in the quiet hallway. The air heavy with words neither had planned to say. "You've been distant," Emily said softly. "Did I do something wrong?" Daniel hesitated. His jaw tightened, then relaxed. "No," he said. "You didn't. Then why does it feel like you disappeared?" He looked down, then back up at her. His voice was calm but honest. Because watching someone from a distance is safer than wanting them. Emily felt her heart beat harder. "And what if I noticed?" she asked. Daniel's breath caught. He met her gaze, something open and vulnerable in his eyes. "Then," he said quietly, "I would have to decide whether to step closer or walk away." The moments stretched between them. Emily realized something then being watched had made her feel seen. But being ignored made her feel empty. And for the first time since her marriage ended, she knew she didn't want to live in emotional safety anymore. She didn't answer him right away. Instead, she took a small step forward, and everything changed. The moment Emily realized she was watching him was sudden. She had always been careful with her heart, careful with attention, careful with hope. But now, Daniel Wright had become the center of her thoughts. The way he moved, the way he focused on his work, the little gestures that made him human, made her pulse quicken without warning. It was strange how easily someone could occupy your mind when they barely even spoke. It started with noticing small things. The way his fingers tapped lightly on the keyboard when he was deep in thought. The faint crease between his brows when he read a report. The quiet sigh when something frustrated him. Emily observed from across the office, pretending to check emails, pretending to focus on her own tasks. She told herself she was curious, that she was just paying attention. But it wasn't just curiosity. It was something deeper, something she hadn't felt in years. Interest? Maybe even longing. Daniel still hadn't returned to the way he was before. He was polite, careful, reserved. His occasional smiles felt forced, brief, and Emily couldn't help but feel the absence of the warmth that had once existed. It made her ache quietly, in a way she had forgotten was possible. The shift wasn't dramatic, but it was enough for her to notice, enough for her to care. One Friday evening, the office was nearly empty. The dim glow of desk lamps and the hum of computers filled the silent space. Emily stayed late, not because of a deadline, but because something inside her wanted to see him again. Daniel was still at his desk, focused, unaware of the time, unaware of her presence. She paused, watching him from the doorway. There was a certain vulnerability in the way he concentrated, a sincerity that didn't need words. For a moment, she just let herself observe, letting the quiet thrill of attention wash over her. Finally, she approached. "Hey," she said softly. Her voice sounded too loud in the empty room. Daniel looked up, startled, then quickly recovered with a polite smile. "Emily," he said. "Still here?" "I could ask you the same," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. He chuckled, the tension in his shoulders relaxing slightly. "Late nights," he admitted. "They make the office feel empty but peaceful." She nodded. "Peaceful can be nice," she said. "Sometimes I just like to watch the city through the window." Daniel's eyes followed hers. "I noticed," he said quietly. His gaze softened, and for a moment it felt like they were back in that early stage, the stage where they could share silence without it feeling awkward. Emily took a breath, surprising herself. "I've been noticing you too," she admitted. "The way you focus, the little things you do, it's hard not to." Daniel blinked, as if processing her words. Then he smiled, genuine this time, not cautious. "I thought I was the only one," he said. "I didn't know if it was appropriate or if you'd care." "I care," she said, and the word carried more weight than either of them expected. It wasn't love not yet, but it was acknowledgement, recognition, and honesty. They walked toward the elevator together, talking in small, easy sentences. Music, favorite books, the city skyline at night, everything seemed mundane, but in that moment it was intimate. For the first time, they weren't just colleagues or distant acquaintances. They were two people noticing each other fully, allowing themselves the freedom to see and be seen. Over the next week, the shift became more noticeable. Emily found herself intentionally arriving early, staying a little later, choosing routes in the office that would give her glimpses of him. She was no longer passive in her observation. She was active. And Daniel responded in subtle ways that spoke louder than words. He held eye contact longer, smiled more naturally, occasionally lingered in the hallways where she could see him. Their connection was quiet, unspoken, yet intensely present. Neither rushed anything, neither forced attention. It was like they had discovered a rhythm together, watching, waiting, noticing, responding. Each glance became a conversation. Each small smile was a promise. One rainy afternoon, Emily found herself standing by the window in the break room, sipping coffee. Daniel appeared, carrying his mug, hesitated for a moment, then joined her by the window. The city outside blurred in the rain, but inside the space between them felt charged with warmth. "You like watching the rain?" he asked casually. "I like watching people," she said with a small grin, surprising herself. Daniel's eyebrows lifted. "People. You notice things about them," she explained. "Small gestures, expressions, moments they don't realize. You see their story before they tell it." He smiled softly, glancing at her in a way that made her stomach flutter. "I guess I've been learning that recently." Emily's heart skipped. "Really?" "Yeah," he admitted. "Watching you made me realize how easy it is to miss what's right in front of you." For a moment, neither spoke. The rain tapped against the glass, and the city's hum became a backdrop to their shared silence. Then Emily took a deep breath. "Maybe we should stop missing it," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm. Daniel looked at her, eyes reflecting the soft gray light of the rainy day. Then, without words, he nodded. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't a promise, but it was an acknowledgement of something growing between them, a subtle, quiet connection built on attention, patience, and care. The days that followed were filled with small, meaningful gestures. Daniel brought coffee to her desk without announcing it. Emily left a note on the printer for him, teasing about a shared joke. They laughed in elevators, shared brief conversations in hallways, and slowly, the distance that had grown between them began to shrink. One evening, Emily stayed late again, working on a client presentation. She looked up to see Daniel standing near the window, holding his bag, watching the city lights reflect off the glass. She felt a pull she hadn't expected. Instead of looking away, she stepped closer, watching again. He asked, a small smile playing on his lips. "Maybe," she admitted, "but this time it's different." He raised an eyebrow. "Different? How?" "I'm not just noticing," she said softly. "I'm choosing to see." Daniel's expression softened, and for the first time, Emily saw something vulnerable behind his calm exterior. "I think I've been waiting for that," he said. Their eyes held, and for a few moments it felt like time had stopped. There was no need for grand gestures or words. The connection was enough. The recognition was enough. In the days after, their bond grew stronger not in public declarations or rushed confessions, but in quiet attention, shared moments, and the courage to watch and be watched. Emily realized that what she had felt before being observed, being noticed, wasn't about longing alone. It was about presence, about acknowledging someone fully and allowing them to acknowledge you in return. Daniel noticed the shift too. The way Emily smiled at small things, the way she leaned slightly when she laughed, the way her eyes brightened when she talked about her work. Each observation made him feel closer to her, made him understand her better, made the quiet longing between them feel alive. It wasn't love, not in the dramatic sense, but it was something stronger, connection, understanding, intimacy without words. And for both of them, it was enough to change everything. One night, as they left the office together, the streets glistening with rain, Emily realized something important. Being watched had always been a gift. And now, she understood that watching someone in return truly noticing them, choosing to care was even more powerful. Daniel glanced at her, and she returned to gaze steady and intentional. No pretenses, no hesitations, just a people fully present, learning how to be seen and how to see. And in that quiet acknowledgement, Emily felt the first real stirrings of hope. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't promise everything at once. It simply exists, quietly, persistently, beautifully. Because sometimes, love doesn't start with a confession or a dramatic moment. Sometimes it begins with the courage to watch someone and to let them watch you back. And that night, walking side by side in the soft glow of streetlights, Emily knew this was just the beginning.